Bilt responds, Hilton overcharging Mark, flying premium economy back from South Korea. All of that coming up right now on MTM Travel.
Shawn totally nailed it on the fourth take.
So happy Tuesday, Mark. See, you're back at home from your nice weekend in the cottage. How was all that?
Yeah, it was, family came up to visit. It was fun, but exhausting as it is when you're entertaining family for several days. And they had rented the house next door for the first couple days. And then the Airbnb was booked or whatever. So I had to find them rooms and I ended up booking them at the Hilton downtown Lexington, which is a really cute boutique property, probably like 30 rooms in total, historic building for like 100 plus years old. At least most of the rooms are in that building, and then they were in the newer building that they built next to it. So you have to walk across the breezeway outside, which I find kind of weird, but I'm guessing they're not busy enough in the winter to use that side. Booked each room with different cards, so I could use $50 things at the restaurant inside. Had $30 in credit from Status for both rooms, $80 off, so we're talking $160. The whole family covered a lot of it, and then I get the bill, and the bill is charging me like $280 a night for each room, even though it was on points.
Well, it sounds like it's a Hilton. I would have thought that's a Marriott doing that to you.
No, and it's annoying because I wasn't there at checkout. I said just tell them to leave it on the card because I wanted to make sure it billed the proper card for each place and gave me my $50 credit. And then I get the emailed invoice and I'm like, oh man, I'm guessing they billed me for whatever Hilton reimburses them for, because it says like reward redemption for something for that night, because I booked one like the day of and it was like 440 or something crazy like that, and I booked the other room months and months in advance. It was probably 300 in that range, so it was kind of interesting to see what they were getting paid. I would have thought it would have been a bit higher because it was mostly sold out, but maybe since it's a curio and a small property, they don't get the same type of payout when it's mostly full. But yeah, so I've been dealing with, I just went to Twitter and DM them, going back and forth. I have to send them, they asked for like proof of the bill or something. I'm like, can't you pull that up in the Hilton account? Like, I don't know why I need to send that to you, but I got to send them both of those, the confirmation or the receipts, and then they'll get to it. I should have probably just gone to the hotel when I go back up there this weekend and been like, you guys suck. But that's the difference when you're dealing with a small Hilton property versus one that's large and run and people know what they're doing. Every time you're here, it's a different person at the front desk. They don't know what's going on. It's a complete mess, but I love the hotel.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to love the hotel, so you deal with all this. I think that this is just a reminder, like we talk about this all the time, of trying to settle bills before you leave a hotel. In this case, you weren't staying there. This is understandable, but like it's much easier to try to deal with something before you check out, before it's closed off. And that's why it's important, I think, to check a bill before you go, because it doesn't matter like what company, it's just always going to be harder to fix it later.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I knew about this is at least I am near there. It's not like it's a different state or far away or anything like that. And I'm pretty sure I know what they did. And I just figured it's easier. Let me do it on my own time with the Twitter people, and hopefully they get to the bottom of it. And if they don't, then I'll go directly to the hotel. But I'd rather just get it kind of the ball rolling on it all before I get back up there. And I don't want to have to deal with the stupid people that work there. And nobody knows what's going on with Hilton because none of them, they were all worked there before as an independent hotel. And then they roll into Hilton. They don't know how any of that stuff works. And nobody probably really taught them. And it's still a struggle. It's been over a year now, a year and a half, and they're still struggling with stuff.
Well, let's move on to Bilt, Mark. We have an update from the recent show. We talked about the pricing issues, specifically around resort fees and the way that they're disclosing everything on their travel portal. And you heard back from them.
Yeah, Richard Kerr reached out and it was like, hey, what are you seeing? And then I think he listened to the episode too. And I sent him the article we wrote, and kind of just so he could see the screenshots of like, hey, this is what I'm seeing when I search. I'm not getting the all-in price the way it probably should be. And it made me think that I could afford something or it was going to be more affordable than it was. And I think that, some people had commented this in the article as well. One, that there's like a toggle button on the app that you can turn all the taxes and fees on. And you see that with some other places like Marriott and stuff. I think on the online Marriott, you have to toggle it, but on the app, it automatically toggles, stuff like that. But that, and then they were having an issue where they were showing all in prices, and maybe this included the taxes and fees, but people were saying that their price was too expensive. He said they weren't comparing apples to apples, and that's why I'm guessing that there was the taxes in there, which maybe Expedia doesn't put in there, or some of the other ones. I don't know, but I did go back into the app and I tried to find it, and there is a way to switch, and it's like kind of like where you do the sort by price and sort by stars and stuff. But Bilt's app, and I find this annoying with all their stuff, you have to like scroll the thing over. It doesn't show all your options on the main screen. And that's the same across all their different things. And I've always found that hard to get used to because most apps, like everything that's possible, they do a drop down or they just have everything listed there. And this one you have to kind of like scroll, especially if you're on a computer, you're definitely not thinking that you need to scroll anything. Same thing, I did it on the computer and it was like the first one you could see like a bit of the bubble and then you had to like move the bubble over to get to it. So I sent him that and he said, I'm already in contact with them trying to move that, make it easier to see or whatever. So we'll see if that happens. I haven't heard back that's been changed, but I suggested put like a little checkbox on the search. If you want to do it this way, I still think you should just put all the resort fee and room rate in there. If you want to leave the taxes and fees out because you're not legally required to, fine, whatever. But if you're going to do that, do it like a search. Like when you search Hilton and they have the little check like use points, put a little box there that you can do on the initial search page when you type in where you're going and the dates, where you check and put all taxes and fees. If that's the way you want to do it, that's the most upfront, easiest way to find it. Even if you move it on the second page, like it's too late. You already did your search. You're already scrolling. You're probably not looking at those categories to change things up, or at least the uninformed isn't. So I don't think that that's a great fix. I would put the checkbox at the front or just roll them all back in there.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Bilt for reaching out to you and for talking about it, for having that option, and hopefully they're able to make it more visible. And this just goes back to what I said before: is that yes, it is better than it was. First off, it's hard to blame operators because they are competing against other people. And like I said, yeah, if Expedia isn't putting something in, then and I put it in, then my price looks higher. And this has always been the argument about why they never disclose resort fees in the first place. But we still need a law. Yes, we have progressed. Yes, it's better. We need a law that says you need to display hotel taxes and fees, the final price paid by a customer. Then everybody displays the same thing. Then we're good. Let's call it the Hotel Price Transparency Act. It needs to be one paragraph, and there you go.
Yeah, right. It would be like 912 pages. I don't know why they left taxes out of the first one. Like you said on the press show, it's there for airlines. Like they got to include all those fees in there. And when you see it broken out, like on a Spirit, because we've talked about this before Spirit went bankrupt, but when you would get like a voucher there, it wouldn't cover most of the airfare because most of the airfare was taxes and fees. And you just don't realize that because it's all rolled into the price every time you do a search. That's how it should be for hotels. I don't know why they would have left that out. It makes no sense. Like that's not an all-in price. Sometimes taxes and fees, just like award flights, can be high. Other times it's not a big deal. In the Bahamas, they're high. Vegas has pretty high ones. Other cities don't. If you're in middle America in a small town, you're not going to have huge taxes. So they do need to put all that in there, and everybody needs to do it. It's not just Bilt. But I will give Bilt credit when they do things like this. I think they do respond to feedback a bit better than the bigger brands, even though they're a massive brand now. And they are willing to, they're more nimble on their feet, I guess, versus like a Chase travel portal or something. We could scream to the moon. I mean, talk about Citi. We talked about how their fraud detection and what I had to do to get my card unlocked by giving them my other credit card number from Chase was crazy. And they called and said, we're going to work on it. And, years later, it's still the same.
I totally agree. I think that the reason that the rules were passed this way to exclude taxes was because the travel industry wants to show the lowest price. And so this was a compromise saying, okay, we'll put these resort fees in the quote, but we're not going to put the taxes so that our overall prices are lower so that people will want to travel more. I think that's honestly what it is. I think while we're doing hotels, we should do car rentals too. Hell, half the time car rentals are 50% or more taxes and fees. And, the more we get into this sort of mature economy and we're able to hide more and it's all about skirting rules and finding loopholes and all of this sort of stuff. I think we need to have a more common sense approach to the way consumers are treated and transparency of information. So you can charge whatever crappy fees you want, call them whatever you want, just put it in the final price, and then we can compare the final prices. We need this legislation now more than ever, but Bilt, yeah, I think that they just put it in a prominent little bubble or something, other things
Yeah.
to do it, put it in a better place. It seems like they want to do that. That's a good move.
I will say that Richard seemed pretty upset about it because he's been one that hates like resort fees and is all about all in pricing. And I don't think that they noticed that the user end of things. And even people commented that they knew it and they could see it and all of that. And I just missed it. And that's just, but I think most people are going to miss it because it's not easy to find. You really need to be searching for it. And if you're a sometimes Bilt user or not a miles and points fanatic, you probably don't know to check for these types of things. And even if you do, like me, sometimes you just are in a rush and you don't. So you go back and forth. Another interesting quirk, which I noticed on a booking that we're going to talk about in a bit, is I had to use my Palladium credit and my wife's Palladium credit. I was doing it for the same trip for the same hotel. Book one room for me, one room for a friend. And I did hers on, I have her login set up on my computer. So I did her search on my computer and then my search on my cell phone, and the price was a little bit different. It was like $10 or $15 different. And I don't know that if that was an account to an account thing or if that was app to website. And sometimes we see that pricing, like even award flights and stuff, where it's a little bit different between the two. So I'll just say search both if you're using the Bilt Travel Portal. Maybe one comes up a little bit different, a little bit better price. I was too lazy to grab my wife's phone and like search it again before we did this, so I'll check that tonight and can upgrade date on that if she sees a lower price on her phone, because we both have the same card, we both have the same status. I don't think it would be that, like maybe status gives you a little bit cheaper price. So it was just kind of interesting to me.
And we're heading into a world where travel, where this is now possible in the world of AI and data. And we've, there's been reports and rumors and people talking that Amazon was going to do this and different retailers were going to do this, where depending on your browsing history, they're going to show you a different price. But technology has sort of caught up in allowing businesses to target you in certain ways, and pricing is certainly one of them that they could go after. And another reason, this is going to be the show where I say we need consumer protections. We do need protection from this type of technology in being able to, I don't know, protect ourselves. You should, I mean, there's no reason that should happen to you where there's two different prices, at least if it's not disclosed, right? If it's disclosed that you have a higher tier of status and you get a discount, then you know it. To your point, you don't even know what's causing it, and you're a pretty an expert. Going back to one point about Richard Kerr, he has been very vocal on the disclosing resort fee issue back when he was in the community. It's something he talked about a lot, and so I definitely don't think that this was something that was intentional on their part. But yeah, you're finding more things. What? I mean, should you just go to a site and expect to pay what somebody else pays, right? I mean, is that such a
Yeah.
big deal? Is that something that I mean, this is where capitalism is gone wrong in 2026. Can't we all just pay the same?
No, that's not the profit, but it just goes to show like that was Shawn's 6 minute rant to say lobbyists really run the country.
I'm just saying, like, no, I'm saying that they always have, and businesses are always
Yeah.
trying to make money, but there's new factors at play here, and technology has matured to a point where we need to have more robust discussions about consumer protections in this new era that did not exist before. So I don't know. I don't think Bilt is doing anything on purpose, and I do want to give him credit for reaching out, having the conversation. We're not the biggest show. We don't have millions of subscribers. And so the fact that they're in the community and they're listening to the customers who are the most hardcore, the people who are, kind of the nuts and bolts and are in the weeds of their program, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah, I think that and the fact that they're larger, but they still are able to make adjustments. And we saw that when they launched the first credit card, and it was kind of a hot mess, and they changed it really quickly. And we saw it when they relaunched these new credit cards. It was a little bit of a hot mess, so they didn't change it as much. I think they spent a lot of time and effort trying to do that, and they thought it was more of a just not fully understanding it, or maybe there was no other way for them to do it. But we've seen both sides of things, so it's good to see them be a bit more nimble. We've seen them make mistakes by not being kind of upfront or having things come out in a way that they didn't want to, but we've also seen them take it on the chin where I forget what it was. Like that, everybody panic transferred because they thought something was going away because of an error, and they said, "All right, we're gonna give you your Bilt points back," but then they let them keep the points that they transferred out to because there was no way to get them back from whoever they transferred. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was like a year or two ago. For whatever reason, I can't remember the details, but people transferred like let's say 200,000 Bilt points to Hyatt because they thought Hyatt was leaving, and they freaked out because of something that was not supposed to be displayed on the app or something along those lines. And they gave people their 200,000 points back because they're like, hey, I wouldn't have done this if you guys wouldn't have that error. But they were unable to get them back from whatever account it went to. So they got to keep them there too. So they've been both sides of things. Some great, some not so great. And, that's kind of where we got to be at.
So let's move on and talk a little bit about bookings and stuff like that. You have on here, is premium economy good enough coming back from South Korea?
Yeah, so we had talked about my booking to Tokyo and still trying to improve that where I can, but my searches are still showing very similar. But I have tons of time, so not too worried about it. And I had said I was kind of eyeing Delta home from Seoul into Detroit nonstop, and business sometimes on that route pops up around 145, 150, something like that with the 15% cardholder discount. That is showing right now, but it's showing with the connection through like Minneapolis or Atlanta, something along those lines. The nonstop is like 350. But I did notice that I could book premium economy for, I think like 84, 85, somewhere in there. And I did have enough Sky Miles to book that without having to do a transfer. If I do business, I'd have to do a transfer in, which I didn't love, but I was willing to do it because I just really want that nonstop home. I think that will be the best option for us. Leave at like 10 a.m. Seoul time, land at like 10:30 a.m. Detroit time. So it's kind of like time travel a bit there, which is fun. But it just, you don't lose a day. Like you get home and you don't have to mess with the connection or potential issues there. And so I locked it in, and then we'll see if anything better comes along. But I'm not too upset with this. It's a 12, 13-hour flight. Premium economy on Delta is kind of like first class in domestic, similar type seat. Not the greatest padding as we discussed last week, but it does have like the footstool or the calf rest or whatever you want to say. It's not a bad seat. I flew it down to Rio overnight. Not great, but for a daytime flight, I don't hate it.
I mean, is it really a date? Like, who knows what time the flight is when you're coming back from Asia?
Yeah,
I'm not correcting you. I don't know. I'm just like, is this a daytime flight? Is it a nighttime flight? Who knows
yeah,
what time my body is on, and
that's
all
true.
of that. And you kind of want to sleep. I
After
think
a week, I assume that I will be adjusted to Asia time. So I feel like
yeah.
it will feel like a daytime flight.
The point is premium economy good enough on a 13 or 14-hour flight? I mean, for a normal person, I think it is. I also, we talked about when I did my recent thing, and you're talking about the footsteps. I forget which flight we were talking about, where you had mentioned the footstools and how it makes a difference for you. I guess it was my AA flight or whatever. But I think for me, I'm too tall, I think, is the problem. And those stupid
Yeah.
footstools, like the way that my legs are bent when I'm using them, they don't make a big difference for me. And I think after you had said that, that kind of got in my brain. And I was thinking about it, that's got to be a big differentiator for people. If you could use that footstool, and if you're short enough where it kind of, you're braced in there and you feel like you're in a position in that, I think that it would be good. But if you're taller like me, it just ends up being uncomfortable and I never use it.
Yeah, I do think that plays a role, and I wish we had that new headrest we talked about that Emirates is coming out with, so I could test that out too. That would have been cool. But I think even when me being probably the more optimum size for this type of seat, you still get like leg aches a little bit using it. I had to go in and out of it. It's still not like perfectly comfortable, but it is nice to be able to adjust a bit and take some pressure off of your legs and things like that, and pick them up a bit. So I go back and forth. Like it's not the best thing, but it is at times. It just moves stuff around enough that it's nice, and you don't maybe have to stand up and walk around as much as you normally would. But yeah, it's not the best for tall people. I can see that being a problem. Although like the bottom will go in and out. Maybe if you lean back, you can make it work a little bit better. I don't know, but yeah, I could see it being more of an issue for you.
But like with anything that we do, we overthink this stuff, and it's like, is premium economy? Of course, premium economy is good enough. Any flight that we do is good enough. I think that isn't said enough. I know you know this. I've talked to you for so many years now. I know your attitude towards stuff, but there is a pretentiousness among some people in the hobby, right? Where they're like, I can't do that, or the thought of that is insane. And for a lot of, I mean, at the end of the day, we've all done these flights. I've done, long flights as long as that in economy, premium economy, business, whatever. It's definitely nicer in business, definitely nicer in first class. And I survive economy. I get there and then life goes on.
I do think that people have loosened up a bit. Like I think like 10 years ago when we were doing this, it was, oh, how dare you not book a saver? How dare you fly not in business? Like, what are you thinking flying economy? And I think as things have gotten harder to book awards and things have gotten more expensive and times have changed and people have just become more okay with it, or maybe just as the whole miles and points group has grown and gone more mainstream, there's more people that are willing to do things that the hardcore OGs aren't. I don't know, but it just seems like you don't see as much shame and as much braggadociousness. Is that a word? I made it up. I don't know. As there used to be, it seems like the douchiness is a bit less. I don't know. At least it's when it comes to bookings and flights and products and things like that.
Well, and then you had to use a word, and then I was going to describe who still does it, and then now I don't want to because you used a word, and I don't want that word to be associated with them. But I do feel like people who have been around longer tend to be more like that compared to newer people. I think that
Yeah.
in the world today, because of the economy for these last, 7 years, whatever you want to say about it, things have gotten really expensive. And I think we've all had to like pick and choose and we're deciding how we're spending. And I think that has happened in miles and points, the same sort of thing. The inflation has been real. Obviously, there's less award availability. So, yeah, we're kind of maybe there was just an abundance of business class before and it was just easy enough where it's like, why would you do that? And the prices weren't so high. And, now in many cases, the prices are tied more to cash prices. So like a lot of times you were paying twice the cost of economy to
Yeah.
go fly in business class. And then in what world is that not the best deal in the world? Like double the price to get all of that extra space. And now many times that's not the case. If you want to get the seat, then there's the variable pricing. It could be far higher, all this sort of thing. So I think people have probably just been more realistic in their lives about everything being more expensive. And maybe that's sort of filtered through here.
Yeah, I think that plays a role for sure. And if you want to stretch your miles a bit further, I just love this in part because I don't have to transfer anything. I don't have to move anything. Like membership rewards to Delta kind of makes me feel bad unless it's an amazing one of those one-off amazing where you're finding like a 10K flight for a $300 flight. And yes, that's not amazing, but it's amazing for Delta Sky Miles. Then I don't feel so bad. But for something like this, it feels a bit like a splurge and a little bit wasteful. I already had like 190,000 Sky Miles from a couple credit card sign up bonuses and authorized user bonuses and things like that, that I didn't have to move anything. I had no plans for them. So being able to just do this booking without having to move anything makes me feel better. I kind of look at transferable currencies in part like an emergency savings fund because I most of them you can cash out and then I don't have to touch actual savings should something come up. So it's kind of like a piggy bank to me. And yes, I'll still use them for travel, but the bigger the piggy bank, the more security I feel on the other things. And I probably should just cash it out and invest it. And we've talked about that before. But I like to have a nice little stash there that if something that pops up like a home repair or a medical bill or something that unexpected for, $5,000 to $10,000, I can cash out points and I can do it that way. I still want to keep them there for a bit in case an amazing trip or a last minute booking pops up or something like that I can be flexible because that's the most important thing these days. So I kind of want to walk that line where, yeah, I still cash out some automatically and move it into high yield savings or investments or stuff like that. But I want to keep a slush fund there for travel and for emergencies. And that allows me to do this for a little bit longer.
Yeah, transferring Delta from Amex is painful for a number of reasons, the value, but then they also hit you with that excise tax. And for some reason,
Yeah.
that fee bothers me so much, so much. The couple of
Especially
times
when
that
you do it like in chunks and you're like, oh, if I just would have done a whole bunch and capped it out, because what's it cap at like $99?
Yep.
Should have just done that. And then but you do it in chunks over time. You're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, it gets to me every time. I don't do it very often, but I have done it. The best I ever did was at Delta Vacation Sale, 7 years ago. I wish
The
they
two
would bring
cents,
that
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
That was the best deal Delta has ever had in all of the time I've been covering all of this, and I wish they would bring it back.
Yeah. Well, what was the other big one? Like the Mexico City thing that went for a couple years until people made it really well known that you could fly pretty much anywhere. If you start in Mexico City, it was 85K in Delta One, and there's still like I think Thrifty's had some award alerts where they found like 80K to Tokyo over the summer and stuff. So there have been better Delta deals than there've been in the past, and hopefully I still find one of those. And that's the other thing. Like we're allowed to book things and cancel them where back in the day you couldn't do that. Before COVID, it was like whatever you booked, you're kind of stuck with, unless there was some flight change. Where now I'm going to book this, and then if something else comes better, I know I can cancel it and we can make those adjustments. So I'm not worried about it. So it's always best to book what you can live with right away, and then if something better comes along, make that change.
Yeah, if you weren't in this miles and point space before 2020 and you don't realize how difficult, what a change that was. I mean, it sort of changed the
Yeah.
whole game on how you look at booking flights and stuff like that. Like I remember pursuing American Airlines status, and when I got executive platinum status, being so excited because I could just lay flights down, because at that time you could, with that status, you could cancel them for free, but no other status. And yeah, it was just it's changed so much over the past few years, good and bad. But I know you have one more trip, but you're going to go see Wrexham too, right?
Yeah, I love the show. Been watching that for years and years, and I've been wanting to go to a game there. And our friend Kristen, her and her husband used to live in England, so they would go to Premier Soccer League games. And as Wrexham's worked their way up, they wouldn't go, or at least KG, her husband, wouldn't go until they were like at least in a decent level, and they're in Champions League, which is right below Premier League. I think the first team ever to do back to back to back promotions, and came close to doing it a fourth time last season. Almost made the playoffs there, missed by like one goal or something. So gonna go there and see them in late winter, early spring, however you want to call it. And I'm excited for that. But we did find a pretty good award. Detroit into Frankfurt and Frankfurt into Manchester on Aeroplan for 75K a person. I don't really like Frankfurt. And the date was a little bit earlier than I wanted to go, but we did find another one for my ID into Munich, and then Munich into Manchester. And that was all in business for 75K. The other one was 75K into Frankfurt, and then we had to book like an extra flight for 7,500 or 10,000, whatever it was, in economy. So this was the better deal, but for 75,000 Aeroplan miles gets me into Manchester, and I skip over those taxes and fees in London. I think that worked out pretty well. It is the 222 business class. Let me play my world's smallest violin. I do hate that product. I don't love Lufthansa, but that's kind of a hard price to beat these days.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes finding award availability means not the best product. I've definitely flown on quite a few of those 222s the last few years, as just got kind of that is what was available, and you do it, and it's certainly better than other things. You know, it's interesting you talk about which itinerary to choose, and then we just backing up a little bit, talking about Delta and Mexico City. Those same people who tell you, oh my God, you are not flying in business class, they'll reposition themselves all the way to Mexico City just to go take another flight. And then it's like, wouldn't it just have been better? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is at that point. I guess it depends on how easy it is to get to Mexico City. But, you know, there's a lot of like things that we're willing to do, and it doesn't always make sense to do that. And then we'll just tell people like, oh, you won't fly economy. You're a peon. It's just like, no, they fly the direct flight. You get there quicker. I don't know. I think people are probably just as good doing that than flying down to Mexico City to get a business class flight.
Yeah, when I did that trip for Thanksgiving, we flew business over, but we had a long layover in New York, and we had to transfer from LaGuardia to JFK, and then flew business overnight. But since it was an overnight flight, it was worth it. And on the way home, we flew economy, which I know you flew this flight too, on Air France from Paris right into Detroit. And that was it was a daytime flight, so it was perfectly fine, not too long. But it overall took so much less time versus the layover and all that stuff, and didn't have to sit in a lounge for like 5 hours waiting for the flight. I preferred that, and it was so cheap. Coming back, it makes me wish I could sit in just straight economy for 20 hours or whatever, because you could go so much further. You stretch your miles so much longer if you're flying economy a lot of places.
Yeah, those Air France, those KLM deals, like on the economy, a lot of time. I think I paid 10,000 miles for my one-way flight back.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they do have fuel surcharges, so a couple $100 or whatever. Now it's more than it was a couple years ago. But that's always the downside on that. But yeah, just being able to get somewhere quicker, not going out of your way. It's all good. But Wrexham, I mean, I know a lot of people are very excited. A lot of people getting into soccer for the first time because of this team. Obviously, Ted Lasso and all of that maybe got people into like looking at the Premier League and but Wrexham, as you said, it's a story of basically, I mean, two American actors buying a soccer team, but spending the money. And because of their very interesting system where you can, if you finish towards the top, you move up to another league, that they just kept going up. And most likely, most people think they'll be a Premier League team. And what an interesting story because of I have not watched the reality show, but I know that it follows the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I know that you like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's just cool to see like a small town. Like this is a tiny town in Wales. The stadium is much smaller than what they're playing against most of the time, and then if they get in the Premier League, it's a ton smaller. But they're allowed to get in there. Where in the U.S., like you have to have millions of dollars, you have to have a stadium a certain size to get in the MLS. Even if you're the tier below that, which there is a Detroit soccer team that's in that tier, and they'll sometimes beat MLS teams in the cup where you just I forget what it's called, like the FA Cup, I think is what it is in Europe. I don't know what it's US Cup, something like that, where any team can get involved and you work your way through and you end up, if you make it far enough along, you'll play an MLS team and they knocked one off. So they have like the ability to play at that level, or maybe the MLS teams don't care that much, whatever it be, but it's still kind of fun. They could win it over and over and over and they'll never move up. But I think it's kind of cool. Relegation makes it a lot more interesting. Even if you're like a bottom tier team, you're going to pay attention those last couple of weeks because you don't know if you're staying or you're going. I mean, if that was in place for the NFL, the Lions would have been out for a very long time, so it would have been sad. But it's kind of like if you look at like these small college type baseball team or single A baseball. Imagine a single A baseball team continuing to win and work their way up just below to Triple A and knocking on the door of MLB. That's kind of what Wrexham did.
Enough with soccer, Mark. Let's close with this transfer bonuses. There's several that are ending at the end of this month, so people should think about taking advantage. I guess I could read these. Chase has one that ends July 30th, 100% to IHG. The other ones all end at the end of the month. Capital One, 30% to EVA. Amex, 30% to Virgin. And Rove, 25% to Frontier. Rove also has their 50% Qantas that goes through the middle of August as well. Qantas, I've been noticing their award availability has been huge lately. I've never booked anything through them. I know they have high fuel surcharges, but it is a program that's quite interesting to me.
Yeah, I think we need to. I've always kind of been of the ilk of I have these 6 programs or 7 or whatever it is that I know fairly well, and that's just what I use because they're in all the different alliances, so you can book the stuff. And maybe it's not the best rates, but I don't want to have stranded miles and points. Other places, if you have a cancellation or something happens, and then you're just learning all this. Like I don't have the mental bandwidth at this point in time with kids and everything else going on. But as they get older and they get more independent, and my son's going to start driving in a couple weeks, which scares me. But yeah, I'll maybe dive in, and I think that's a way to make your points and miles go a little bit further, harvest more sweet spots, the places people aren't willing to look. So I'm kind of with you on that, of checking out those things. But yeah, it's always good to know when these are ending, just in case you can use them. You don't want to speculatively transfer just because. I will for Virgin because I use it at AMC, as we've talked about, for popcorn and stuff like that. And we're going to Spider-Man on Friday, I think. So I'm going to need to take advantage of that one.
Well, I have to say, out of all these transfer bonuses, I did take advantage of one of them this month, and it is Virgin. I mean, I hate to say this for that reason. I hate to give Mark so much credit for this. I hate the local AMC theater because they don't have
Yes,
recliners.
I can't believe you did it.
I did it. So I hate the AMC
Will
theater.
it feel so good though?
We were gonna, yeah, it did. And you get to upgrade for like $1, right? So because it comes with the regular size, but like I upgraded my drink. I think it was $1 more for the large drink. And I got a couple popcorns, but we only ended up getting one popcorn because we just upgraded to a large for $1, and that was more than enough. Got everybody drinks. And yeah, I mean, the only thing for me is the AMC is not as good as the other theaters, but as far as being able to redeem the Virgin points, it's a great value. It's like 2 cents per point or something like that.
Yeah, with the transfer bonus, and it all depends on like where you're at. For us, it's like 1.25 normally without the transfer bonus. But if you're in a more expensive area like Vegas and stuff like that, then it would push it up there because it just shows you like a range. Like it could be this to this, and your market kind of dictates where you are. And the AMC we go to the most is in a small town, so it's fairly affordable. But there's nothing better than having like $100 bill because I get them all the individual regular size popcorns. because I hate having to reach over and grab popcorn from other. So I don't like having like one big one for two people. I don't want to share. I just want to have my thing in front of me. So we do four of those, four drinks, and the bill goes from like $100 down to like $30 for the actual tickets. And it feels so awesome. Like movies gotten so expensive, but this makes it feel like it's like you're cheating.
Yeah, and instead of them cheating, because their prices
Yeah.
are so insane, like $12
Yeah.
for a drink or something, that or $9 for a drink and $12 for like a small popcorn. You feel like, yeah, you got one over on them. So I highly endorse that. I just wish that they would put recliner seats in our AMC here. But
Oh,
yeah,
we got it. Yeah.
oh,
Your
see, I
sucks.
mean, anyway, that's the only use of Virgin. If you ever did anything, just yeah, there you go. AMC, and don't get the tickets, right? You've said this before, but
Yeah.
oftentimes the
Tickets
ticket
suck.
redemption is not the best. But we're talking about popcorns and drinks, and like I said, they allow you to upgrade them too, and you just pay the price difference. And at my theater, the medium is basically the price of the large. It's just like $1, so that's a good deal too.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. And just go to a matinee showing. They're like 25 or 30% off if you go before 2 or 3 p.m., even on the weekends. So just shoot for that for the tickets and get all the snacks for free. We call it lunch sometimes.
And there is your tip of the day on a long, winding, crazy MTM travel. But let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about today. The age-old debate about going to Mexico City for business class or flying direct premium economy. I want to know, like, what are people's experience with those foot things? Because I hear so many people talk about how much they love the foot things. And I imagine, like, my wife is short, like, she likes it. But are you tall like me? Do you have an issue with that? Wrexham, have you gone and seen a game there? And Virgin, do you do the AMC thing? Because Mark finally, he wore me down and I had to go do it.
Yeah,
And I missed my
just
recliner.
like all the core.
He's an influencer, Mark. He's an influencer. So let us know down in the comments. We do a couple shows a week. We'll be back on Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.